Well, at least you can even get pregnant. Hey guys, I'm Marissa and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following my channel for a couple months, then you know that my husband and Jacob and I unfortunately had a miscarriage in July. And it was the worst, hardest thing I've ever been through. This was our first pregnancy and we unfortunately had a miscarriage at about 7 weeks. And over the last 2 months since we had a miscarriage, I've been very open in sharing our journey here on YouTube, on social media, with friends and family in real life. And I've definitely heard a lot of comments and a lot of them are pretty crazy. And so I thought that it may be beneficial for me to sit down and share some things that you just shouldn't say to someone who's had a miscarriage. Now, I have heard a lot of these. I haven't heard all of them, but I've heard a lot. But I do want to preface this by saying, you guys, even though I have heard these things and sometimes it like hurts, I'm not offended. I know that when people try and say something to you after you've told them like I've had a miscarriage or you've shared that on social media or anything like that, people don't really know what to say and it can be a really awkward topic. So instead of just saying, I'm so sorry, people feel like they need to fix the problem and in turn, they try and come up with like a silver lining for a very unfortunate event. When the truth is, all you really need to say is, I'm really sorry. I can't imagine what you're going through. But I just wanted to provide a little bit more education for anyone who's maybe walking alongside someone who's had a miscarriage, or even if you've had a miscarriage yourself, know that I've heard these things too. And I'm also very, very sorry for everything you've gone through. So there are a lot of bad things that people will say to someone who's had a miscarriage. I'm not going to share them all, but just here are a few highlights. The first being, well, at least you can even get pregnant. I had a couple comments like this on my video that I did sharing about my miscarriage, of people even saying like what I wouldn't give to even become pregnant. And my heart truly hurts for people who are dealing with infertility and can't get pregnant. But experiencing pregnancy loss is not something that I want to celebrate. It was very traumatizing and very heart-wrenching and physically, emotionally draining. It was awful. So I don't think that there's anything that I can be happy about of, oh, well, great, at least I could get pregnant. Like, what good is getting pregnant if I can't actually have a baby by the end of it? So that was one that was hard. Another one, well, at least you weren't that far along. So I had a miscarriage at almost 7 weeks, and so I still was in my first trimester and pretty early. We did get to tell some family and friends, like really close friends, that we were expecting, and I am glad that we were able to do that because when we went through our miscarriage, we had people like rallying around us and really caring for us. But I did hear from, you know, other people and things like that of the comment of, well, at least you weren't that far along. And I can't imagine what it would be like losing a baby, like having a stillbirth or, you know, going full term, like having a nursery set up, all those things. That has to be absolutely traumatizing. But again, there's just no silver lining to this, and the pain at 7 weeks was still really hard. Within those like 3 to 4 weeks that I knew I was pregnant, I had planned out the next like 18 years of my life, you guys. It was like I was figuring out our budget, putting it, you know, in our Excel sheet, trying to look at the finances, planning out what I was going to do for work and like all these things. I even bought like maternity leggings, and I just had so much planned just thinking about having this child, and for that to be totally crushed was heartbreaking. Okay, this one I still haven't gotten over, and I need to get over it because it wasn't meant to be said, but it was very difficult. At least there's other babies around you that you can snuggle. After I went through my miscarriage, it was much more difficult for me to be around people who were pregnant, who had babies. It was just really hard because it was that constant reminder of they have that and I don't, and what's wrong with me that I can't. And it was really difficult to be able to see that. And so that was the complete opposite thing, the complete opposite. Actually seeing more people with babies, I'm sorry, I don't want to snuggle other people's baby. I just want to have my own baby. And so that was a really difficult one. Another good one. Well, you're still young, there's plenty of time. Now, I am only 25, so I realize that that is still pretty young, but a loss is still a loss at any age. And even though I do have hopefully more childbearing years ahead, this was still really difficult and really painful. And even to mention, this was my first pregnancy, and so I've never had a full-term pregnancy before. And so in the back of my mind, I just keep thinking, what if there's something wrong with me? What if I actually can't get pregnant? And it was really frustrating to hear like, oh, you'll get pregnant someday, you know, you still have plenty of time, to know that like, you don't know that. So again, instead of trying to give people like a silver lining or give them hope in a really sucky situation, you don't need to. You can just say, ugh, that really sucks, because it does. Another great one, this is a question. People have really great intentions with this question, but maybe it's not super appropriate. The question of, when are you going to try again? I remember I was literally still like having my miscarriage, like still bleeding, and was asked the question, oh, well, when are you going to start trying again? And that was like the last thing I wanted to think about. And I felt like I was betraying the baby that I had to even think of starting to try again. And so that question just shouldn't be asked. Mind you, you just shouldn't ask anyone when they're going to start trying for a baby. Just not a good idea of asking random people when they're gonna have a baby, because you don't know what they're going through. Maybe they're going through a year of infertility, you don't know. So just don't ask the question of when people are going to start trying to have another baby. There's a lot of other really dumb comments that people can say to someone who's gone through a miscarriage, but I think to just round it all out, any statement that starts with "at least," because again, by saying "at least," you're looking towards that silver lining and trying to be helpful, but it's really not helpful and you just don't need to say it. So if you're trying to think of a comment that starts with "at least," just don't say it. Just don't. The last thing that was really difficult, this wasn't a direct comment made, but something that was really difficult for me after going through my miscarriage. Honestly, even in the season of trying, it took us 4 months to get pregnant, and then in the last couple months has just been really difficult. So basically, my entire year of 2019 has been when other people are talking about their pregnancy or their babies when I don't ask about it. And this one's really tricky, especially when you have friends who are in that season and are pregnant and are having babies, and it can be, you know, a really exciting time. But the amount of things, maybe I was just hypersensitive to it then, but I feel like at every turn, like everyone was talking about their babies or talking about their pregnancies. And when I would see people and be like, oh, how are you doing? Like the first thing that they could talk about was their pregnancy. And even knowing what I had just gone through was just really painful. And for me to sit there and just be like, okay, yeah, that's great, yeah. Or for them to talk about their babies, or even sometimes complain about their pregnancy or the baby, and to think what I would give to be able to be in their shoes. So those things were difficult. But for me, I know, again, these people didn't mean it. They just haven't experienced loss themselves. They just probably don't know that it's not really appropriate to talk to someone who just had a miscarriage about how your baby and how your pregnancy is doing. If they don't ask about it, just don't mention it. And maybe at some point in time, hopefully, you'll be able to share those things. But for this season, probably just not the best thing to talk about. So if you are walking alongside someone who has experienced a miscarriage, or you've experienced it yourself, just being able to be there with someone and say, I'm sorry, it really sucks, is just all you need to do. And my best advice for you too is, if you know someone who's gone through a miscarriage, being able to send your condolences at that moment is really encouraging. But even after time, like following up with people to seeing how they're doing, even a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year later, is so valuable. I've been so thankful for the people who are following up with us, even though it's been 2 months since my miscarriage. Having people in our lives who are still checking in, asking how I'm doing, those have been really great friendships and people who really care. So instead of just brushing something to the side and trying not to even mention it, I think a lot of times when people are dealing with grief and we don't know what to do, we just may say nothing at all. And I've done this myself to friends who have lost parents, who lost loved ones, and I just didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything at all. And realizing now that that really wasn't what I needed to do. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to bring it up and make them sad. But the truth is, that person probably won't forget what happened to them. Like, I think about my miscarriage every single day, multiple times a day, kind of in the back of my mind all day, and it's been months. And so to have someone bring it up isn't going to make me more upset, because it's not like going to be a shock to me. I know that I experienced it. I'm still like grieving through the process. So just being able to come alongside someone and say, I'm so sorry, is just all you need to do, and just be there for someone and just say something. And I am truly sorry if you have experienced a miscarriage, or if you are walking alongside someone who is going through a miscarriage. That is incredibly difficult, and I hope that you were able to stay encouraged and encourage this person in this season. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.